So are your scorecards then heavily focused on profitability per department and team member?
No, we use a book called 4 Disciplines of Execution. Okay. And it's an excellent book. And you set a wildly important goal. You have transparency. And the wildly important goal is what's the 1 or 2 things that would move the organization forward the most? Like, what is the 1 or 2 things, whether it's over the next quarter, whether it's over the next year, let's name what one of those 2 things are, but it can't be more than 2 for us. We name those, we put a disproportionate amount of energy on those items. Like, we're going to focus on it. Like, the house is on fire. What do we need to grab out of the house to go? Disproportionate energy on those. Third is going to be that you have a scoreboard that's transparent that everyone can see. So if I wouldn't have seen my clock or my speedometer, I think I'm getting there, but based on what? So transparency of the scoreboard. What's important about that is everybody has to agree, not just what we want to grow. What's that number? Like, if I want to get to Raj's and I want to get there on time, I need to go 72. Well, how are you going? Well, I'm going fast. Are you going 71? Yeah, you're not going to make it. You're going to 73. You might have a little bit of a cushion. Agreeing on what that number is so that people know, so that people aren't rewarded for hard work, they're rewarded for results. We need to be a culture of execution. So that third one of a very transparent and negotiated scoreboard of what exactly is success going to be. And the last is tie rewards specifically to those WIGs. At times, and we pick those as a group. At times, we pick what we think is going to move the organization forward the most, and we don't pick the right ones. But I have yet to have a time with whatever one that we pick that we put disproportionate energy on that we don't hit. It's when I say we, I have very little, if nothing, to do with that. It's just communication, agreement, and execution. And for us, that's been a really, that book has been one we've used for years. It's a simple read. It's very easy. But early on, we would bring the tablets down the mountain like, here are your WIGs. No, we as a team have to decide what's going to move it forward. Because even if you have one that's really important, that this metric moving is really going to change this company, but other people aren't on board, you get a lot of, this on the outside, the inside, they're doing this. And you can literally have, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, and I hope you don't, where your team is kind of in, but kind of rooting or not really. Like, people buy into what they create. So getting that where, what is that WIG that we need to hit? If I had a secondary WIG, but I had 100% buy-in, I'd take that over the one that I think would move the company further the most. Because even if I want to move it forward the most, if I can't get everyone on board or I don't have agreement, then it's not going to move the company forward. We're going to focus on something that I don't have full buy-in on. So each one of those things, getting clarity, making sure that it's the right one, and making sure that we do move it forward. The scoreboard, there's a lot of magic in the scoreboard that everybody can see the scoreboard. You can see it each individual site, and you can see it summed up together. If that's out there and it's broadcast and it's on the wall and every office is in the green with on target as they get there, but you're in the yellow, nothing needs to be said. There's yellow, then there's red, and there's green. They know they're in the yellow. People can see they're in the yellow. No one wants to be in the yellow, and they get themselves up there. So tying those things together, and that book has been a very good one for us for an operational system.
I made a note to buy the book. One thing that I've noticed from successful people like yourself is whenever someone makes a book recommendation, they buy that book. No questions asked. And you actually did it the first time we met. I don't even remember what the book was, but as I was talking, you had already ordered it on Amazon. And I think that just kind of speaks highly to your growth mindset, or the growth mindset that maybe a lot of entrepreneurs have in general. It actually ties into a point you made earlier regarding, the sandbox that we all play in, and having the abundance mindset of that sandbox being big enough for all of us. I think that's a very American mentality to have. I think in a lot of other countries, and I could be wrong, there's more of a scarcity mindset. Like, if you do well, maybe that's taking away from me if we're in the same industry. So I'm glad you made that point. I feel the exact same way in my industry as well. You mentioned sprinting, measuring, and then assessing in a previous conversation. So how involved are you in the sprinting, measuring, assessing in terms of, I know you're not daily involved in the operations, but you're looking at KPIs, you're setting the overall strategy and direction for the company. And then is it really the team that pushes and then you're assessing?
Actually, I'm like a conductor.
Okay.
And everybody is playing their instruments. And so we just did an annual retreat in July. We set what we want to have happen for the year. And I facilitate that, getting input from all of them. And interesting, I have some targets that I want to hit, but when we start to facilitate and see where they think they can hit, their targets are always past what I would have set. So had I gone and said, here's our targets, here's what we're going to do, and brought the tablets down the mountain, the first thing I would have done is limit them. And when someone would tell you, Raj, like, hey, I don't think you can do this, or I expect this from you, and it's less than what you can do, doesn't create a great feeling for you nor synergy with the person that said that. So to start with, we say, hey, what can we do as a team? And we get that agreement from them, and they buy into it. And realistically, as a leader, your job is to help facilitate, expand areas, and bring everyone on the same page. So like, hey, this is what we're capable of. This is the size of the market. We have this much of a slice. If we want more, I think you can do it. Tell me what your thoughts are. So we set that for the year, and then we have quarterly updates, and that's when we evaluate it. So every quarter I get the update, and then I facilitate a quarterly meeting, and all I'm doing is giving my perspective from that, more from the market view from the outside, but hearing their perspective from the ground up, just to help everybody find the right, sound, right? We got to get that right, strike that right tone between where we want to go based on how I can see the field, but based on what's really happening on the bloody tip of the spear within our organization. So quarterly, I do that, and then they set their goals, they set their targets, they adjust their wigs accordingly, and then they do that next sprint. So every quarter they will do that. And in 13 weeks, they can move the needle. One thing that I changed this year with an annual retreat is we were growing in quarter sprints, which we had some growth, but there were times that we were winning the quarter, but we could have really crushed the year. And we would always have progress, look back year over year, but that just happened to be 4 quarters that had added up. So we looked at, all right, what happens if we do a 3-year sprint and we break that up into 12 quarterly sprints? You run differently to win that 3-year marathon. We started to make that tweak this year with that annual retreat, and I'm seeing a difference in the mindset. I'm seeing a difference in the focus. I'm seeing we're going to get measured and how we get to the end. And so you have time to prepare yourself. You have time I don't mind if I have a bad week or a bad month. Here's why I had it. Here's what I'm doing. If it's creative destruction of we moved some clients out that weren't good, we got rid of some products that were a burden and not profitable, so our top line took a bit of a hit, but watch what happens in the next 2 quarters. That's what I want to see. And they have the authority to do that if they're trying to win the year or they win the 3 years versus just trying to win the quarter. And getting them to have that line of sight and that long-term thought process of it is what we've shifted to more now.